What was your favorite subject in school? I know what mine wasn't. Math. Today we're going to talk about math, style math. Hello, I'm Kristen from Kristen Cain Style. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a style and mindset coach, and I can help you create a wardrobe you love wearing. I can help you take out all the drama that you might be feeling around style and getting dressed and looking and feeling put together and confident in your clothing. And I do that by talking about the clothes for sure, and also talking about your mindset, talking about the thoughts and the feelings that are probably looping in the background of your style story, and you might not even be aware of them. And they are helping to create the results that you're getting that you might not like. And I want you to create the results you want in your style and in your wardrobe. So I do work one-on-one with clients. Style therapy is the way that I do that. There's a link down below if you are interested in learning more. And if you feel like it might be something you would like to do to get these style struggles resolved for once and for all, we can jump on a consult call. I do a 1-hour consult call where I do an intake with you to really get clear, shines kind of a pretty bright light on what is going on in your wardrobe, because sometimes it's not what you think. And then I walk you through the process, what style therapy and doing that work together would look like. I answer any of your questions, and I help you decide if it's a good fit for you right now, if it's time for you to sign up for style therapy so that you can just love getting dressed and look and feel confident and put together every time you put your clothes on. Today, as I said, we're going to kind of go back to school a little bit. When I was in school, history and English were definitely my favorite subjects, and science was sort of neutral, and math was definitely not my favorite subject. I never considered myself good at math. It usually overwhelmed me and made me nervous. Couple that with lots of years of sort of a lack mindset around money, and that of course involved numbers, and so I shied away from that, and so I paid pretty little attention to math in general in my life, because now with cooking and with sewing, those two areas, or baking really, and sewing, I would pay attention to math. I know the math around baking and sewing, but otherwise I kind of paid no attention to math, and I didn't really love numbers, and I didn't like looking at numbers. And today we're going to talk about numbers. I don't mean to scare you. It's not really about numbers, but it is style math, and it is super important, and it is one of the reasons that you might not have a wardrobe you love wearing. And once you see this, you kind of can't unsee it. I talk about style math almost every single time I'm in a closet or working one-on-one online with a client for style therapy, because you can't not talk about it, because it's part of the fundamentals of, getting dressed and having a wardrobe that actually serves the life you live and supports you and lights you up and makes you look and feel amazing. So, style math. What do I mean? If you are frustrated and overwhelmed with your wardrobe and with your style and with trying to get dressed, chances are that the problem could be in the numbers. And once you take a look at this and start to get really clear on how the equation is kind of working or not working, you can begin to fix it. If your style math doesn't add up, that's what leads to that frustration and that overwhelm. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look here. As always, I like to start with questions. I like to ask you questions that get you thinking about how to solve the problem. And this is more of an intake. It's not even so much making you think about how to solve the problem. It's actually collecting data or collecting numbers with regards to your wardrobe so that you can get a handle on, is your style math equation working for you or not working? So the first thing would be to get a handle on how you spend your time. If you don't take a look at how you spend your time when you're dressed, it's hard to determine whether the style math in your world is correct or incorrect. Like, you don't know whether to give it a check, like, yep, this is correct, or to put a big line through it, like, nope, this is not right. So you need to get clear on the time that you are spending in clothing and what that looks like. And what I mean is, how do you spend your time? Make a list of every situation you get dressed for, and then next to that situation, put a little, tally of how often you need to get dressed for that situation, so that you're beginning to create sort of a structure for what do you need from your clothing. So take a 2-week period, either one that's past, or if you're looking ahead, take a 2-week period of your life, kind of the average normal 2-week period of your life. You can do it for longer if you'd like. You can do it for shorter, but 2 weeks feels like a good number. So start with 2 weeks, and if you want to go longer or shorter, up to you. and get really clear on what are the activities you do over the course of 2 weeks and how often do you do them. So activities like work from an office, work from home, work out, go on a date night, travel, run errands, hike, do some other outdoor activity, chill out at home, spend time during the day with friends, spend time in the evening with friends, go to some sort of formal event, go to church. Write down all the things that you do that you are getting dressed for over the course of 2 weeks and how often those things are repeating. How often are you doing those activities? And then create categories out of those activities. So you could have a work category and you could have a fitness category. And fitness could include the hiking and the yoga and the Pilates and the going to the gym. Or you could have sort of a daytime category, and that could be going to lunch with friends or going to run errands or, going on a road trip and being in the car all day. However you feel like the activities you do fit neatly into categories. There's no wrong answer. Whatever's going to feel the most accurate and kind of authentic for you. What are the categories that each of those activities fits under? So it could be work and daytime and dress up and fitness and fun and casual at home, or however you want to divide the categories, you want to have categories. And note how many times over the course of 2 weeks you need to get dressed for those categories. So it's similar to that first section, but now you're kind of broadening it and making it an actual category of work clothing. How many times do you need to get dressed for work? And the original tally might have been dress for work online, dress for work in person, go to a work dinner. But if all of those are the same clothes, then you want to make notes of how often you need to get dressed for work, because you started with the more specific categories of what each activity is, and now you want to create kind of capsule wardrobes, if you will, for each of those categories and how often you need to get dressed over the course of 2 weeks or a month with clothing that supports, that works for that category. And the next thing you're going to do is go into your closet and get really clear on how much clothing you have. And you are going to tally and take note of how much clothing you have for each category. So the category of getting dressed for work, what pieces work for that? And whether you take pictures of them, whether you make a pile of them on your bed, this pile is the work clothes, this pile is the fitness, this pile I would wear out to lunch with my friends, this pile is what I would wear if I were going to something formal or dressier, this pile is for church. And there will be some overlap, so there isn't a wrong way to do it. Different people's brains think different ways. So some like to see things kind of piled together. Some people would hang it together in their wardrobe, where on the rail they would hang all the things they would wear to work, all the things that they would wear out on a date, just so you're separating it. And take note of it. You can literally take your piece of paper that says work and chill at home and daytime activities with friends and whatever your categories are, and write underneath it, I have the blue top, the white top, the green top, the red top, the blue blazer, the black blazer. You can get, the more specific you get, the more data you have, the better off you're going to be when you really start to look at the math equation and does it work? Is it supporting the life that you're living? Because if you're vague about it, or you think, I think I can wear that, you don't get the actual answer you need, so probably your style math isn't working, which is part of the reason that you're not feeling amazing in your wardrobe. And pay attention to things like undergarments and certainly shoes and accessories. If you have all the work clothing that you need, but you don't have the shoes you need, then the style math isn't working. And if you have great clothes, but you haven't purchased new bras and underwear in like 6 years, then probably you need to move that onto your list of things you're looking for. And you need to go secure the undergarments that are actually going to work with the clothing that you have, so that the style math has all the kind of digits that it needs to make the equation correct. And so, see, I can't even really make good math references because I just don't think in math, but I think you know what I mean. And then the next thing to look at is function, because all of this falls short and the equation does not work out if you don't pay attention to the function. If you have all blouses you can wear to work that you're freezing cold in, and where you work is actually really cold and you're never warm enough at work because you don't have the layer or the tops that would be warmer, then the style math isn't working. You might have enough tops in theory on paper to wear to work situations, but if you're always cold when you wear those tops, then you don't have a wardrobe that's working working for you. So you need to pay attention to things like functionality, specifically your climate. How do you run hot? Do you run cold? How do you feel when you get dressed in the clothing that you have? Are you too warm or are you too cold? What is the environment you're going into? Do you work in a job on the East Coast where it rains often and you have to leave and go to a different building and you don't have a good raincoat? Then your style math isn't actually working. That equation isn't actually equaling a wardrobe that is really going to light you up and be functional and fabulous every day when you get dressed. And pay attention to what you'll be doing in the clothing. If you used to work in an office where you just sat at a desk and you have high heels and you no longer wear high heels because now you're running around all the time and the high heels aren't comfortable, pay attention to that and recognize that in your math equation, your style math, you are going to need to buy some shoes that are comfortable and appropriate for work, and maybe get rid of the heels or move the heels to the date capsule so that you can wear them, if you want to wear them out on a date, but you're not trying to get dressed from a capsule that isn't actually including the components you need to look and feel amazing when you go to work. Same thing if you're moving around. I work with a lot of teachers and hairdressers and people who are in clothing where they have to actually be able to move, sometimes get down on the floor, reach and stretch and pick up heavy things, whatever the case is. And so if your clothing doesn't support that, if all of your blouses are kind of short and when you put your arms up to put things away at work, you feel like everything's exposed, then the math isn't working. You might have the right number of those tops to wear for the occasions, that you repeat that task, but they don't work for you because you don't like how they feel, so you're not wearing them. So you maybe are pulling from another category, but those pieces aren't really working either because they're not actually assigned to going to work and looking and feel amazing for work. So whatever that looks like, you can pay attention and should pay attention to how the garment feels. Like you should be comfortable really at all costs. And so if you have a lot of wool sweaters that you're just keeping because you have a lot of wool sweaters, but every time you put them on, they're itchy, then that math isn't working. You fool yourself into thinking that you have this wardrobe that should be supporting you because you have plenty of sweaters, but yet the sweaters don't actually work for the life that you're living or for the situation that you're trying to wear them in or for the body that you have, which doesn't love wool. So your math is off. You have these tops and you think that they fit this equation, but they don't actually. The other thing to pay attention to is dress code. What's expected of you at work? Did you used to work a job where you could get away with something and now in the new job, your role is slightly different and you need to show up in a slightly different way with regard to your clothing. And so if that's the case, pay attention to that, because if you have all the old work clothes and you think that you've got enough, but you're not actually wearing them, then the math is off. And pay attention to maintenance. I can't tell you how many clients tell me that they don't ever go to the dry cleaner, which I understand. I really only dry clean coats and blazers if necessary. And although I want to add a little side note here, Greta, my daughter, wise woman that she is, she bought a blazer recently and we washed it. Actually, she bought a winter coat and a blazer, like a wool coat and a blazer, wool blend. And both of them, the tag said machine washable. I would never have considered putting either one of these in the washer. They were structured blazer and coat. And yet both of them said machine washable. The coat was from the Gap and I don't remember where the blazer was from. And they washed beautifully. And so since then, I have a cream blazer from H&M that I bought many years ago, and it was starting to look like it needed to be cleaned. And I read the tag inside and it said machine wash and hang dry and then steam or iron, and it washed beautifully. I put it in a zippered bag, which I usually do, the zippered mesh bags. But my point in all of this is that you might be surprised. I was surprised that you can actually wash a blazer or a coat. So make sure you check that. But maintenance with regards to the style math, pay attention to what you're willing to tolerate. If you don't want to go to the dry cleaner and you don't want to hand wash things and you don't like to iron, then the pieces in your wardrobe should support that. And if they don't, the math probably looks like it's right because, I have all those great tops or all those great whatever. But if you're not willing to do what's necessary to maintain them, then the math goes awry and then you don't have a wardrobe that supports the life you want to live. So how is this all going for you? Once you have your numbers, pay attention to the fact that if you go on a date every week, then you should probably have 4 or 5 date outfits that you can wear a month. Not the exact same outfit every Friday, but you should have 4 or 5 outfits or 4 to 6 outfits that you can kind of rotate through and mix and match to go out on dates. And if you have, 28 date tops, probably that's too many, because even if you wore a different one every day, every date, that's half the year that it's going to take you to get through those 26 tops. And my guess is if you have 26 date tops, you probably buy date tops pretty regularly. So when you go shopping, if you're buying more date tops, you're going to end up with a very skewed equation of way too many date tops if those don't also work for regular daytime or for going to work or other categories that you've identified in this style math situation. And if you do some sort of outdoor exercise activity situation every day, or more days than not, and you don't have a great jacket, then the math isn't working. You might have all the leggings in the world and all the running sneakers, but if you don't have a jacket for days when it's windy or cold or rainy, then the math isn't adding up. And so this is often a huge issue for women who I work with in person or one-on-one online, where they don't want to face the math. And I get it. I totally get it. We don't want to really look honestly at what the quantities are in our wardrobe and how they relate to the situations we need to get dressed for, because we maybe like buying date tops. And so we don't want to be told that we can't buy any more date tops. We don't want to buy work clothes, or we don't want to buy workout clothes. But yet those are the areas that are lacking, and the math isn't working because we're super frustrated when we go to get dressed for work or when we go to get dressed for a date, but we don't have clothing in that category. So once you see the math, you need to just make a decision as to whether you are okay with 26 date tops when you're really never going to wear them all in the year, or if that is causing drama and angst and irritation when you go to get dressed, because most women, that's a problem. It bugs them when they walk in their closet and it feels really imbalanced. It feels like there are way too many of something for some category and not enough for something else. And ideally, the math works and we have just the right amount. And that doesn't mean you have only X number of tops to wear to work in those exact same days. You want to have freedom to change your mind and wear something different, but you don't have such a surplus in one area that it just feels excessive, and yet there are other areas where you don't have what you need to actually get dressed and look and feel amazing. And I find that this becomes a problem because of the limitation that it seems like it imposes. We don't want to be limited. It's the same way we don't want to actually use a calendar and schedule everything, because it feels very controlling and limited. And if we decide, well, my style math says that I don't need any more, white t-shirts, then that feels restrictive. And how could we possibly not buy the next great white t-shirt when we wear white t-shirts all the time? And this is just a tool to help us get clear on what's missing and what we might have too much of. And then we get to decide what to do with that. You don't have to get rid of all the excess. It just might be helpful to understand that the frustration and overwhelm you're feeling when it's time to get dressed might be coming from the fact that your math is off, that your numbers aren't actually adding up to a wardrobe that will support the life that you live. And so you can keep shopping for the categories that you have plenty in, yet know that those categories are probably what's fouling up the feeling of just being really good with your wardrobe. And we like to buy the things that are easiest most often. So the women who really need jeans have lots of great tops because tops might be easier for them to buy. Or the women who love to buy trousers might have lots of trousers and nothing to wear with them because the trousers are easy. So that part of the math equation feels like, of course, this is where I want to spend my time and energy and money because pants are easy for me to buy. I have a terrible time with tops. And there's no right answer. Every woman has her own thing that it's easier for her to buy. But if you're not allowing the equation to be more balanced so that you have the components that you need in order to get dressed quickly and easily and look authentic and feel amazing for every situation, for every one of the categories, even if it's hanging out at home and watching TV, you want to have the clothing that you need. You don't want to have just one pair of sweatpants, and if they're still in the dryer, you're standing in your bathrobe waiting to watch a movie because you can't get dressed. So I hope that this is helpful. I know that there are parts of this style math that I resist. I tend to have, kind of a lack in the handbag area of my world. And I don't really love to buy handbags. I'm kind of a one handbag at a time girl. And yet I see in some places where having an extra handbag or two might make different situations work better when I go to get dressed. The same goes for denim. I have a lot of denim. I love to buy denim. It is hard for me to say no to denim, especially thrifted denim. And yet when I look at the style math, I think, Kristen, how on earth are you going to wear all those jeans in one season? So for me, I do it a little bit like toy rotation, which I didn't ever actually do with my kids, but I kind of think it's genius, where you pull out, like I don't have all of the Levi's that I have thrifted in my wardrobe at one time because it would overwhelm me. I have the ones that are the most appropriate for that season and or are my favorites right now. And yet I have backups. You know, when I find great Levi's in the couple of styles that I really love right now, I tend to buy them if they're a good price and they fit and I love them, because I know that jeans don't last forever. And so I want to have a couple pair kind of on deck for when it's time to insert some new ones into my wardrobe. The same can be with blouses or tops or sweaters, where you don't have everything out all at the same time. You kind of rotate them, yes, by season, but also just by interest to kind of keep things fresh, the same as you would do in kind of the toy rotation theory. That's all I got on this today. I'm curious to know if you pay attention to this and if you have clarity in your wardrobe about how your style math equation is actually working. Have you taken the time to pay attention to, you know, what do you do on a daily basis? What clothing do you need? You know, what's required from your closet in order to get you dressed for the activities you do? And do you have the right number of pieces in each category to be able to get dressed and look and feel amazing with really little effort at all? That's ideal, I believe. It can be a bit of an eye-opening exercise to really see, wow, I have too many tops to even begin wearing them in an entire season. I'd have to change my clothes 3 times a day to get through all of those sundresses this summer. Pay attention to that, because likely some overwhelm and some frustration is born of either too much or too little. And if you can balance that style math equation, it gets a whole lot easier. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you, or comments, you can drop those down below. I will be back next Friday with another video. I am always on Instagram every Tuesday doing a live style Q&A. If you would like to join me there, it is at noon Mountain Time at Kristen Cain Style, and you can ask your question and I will coach live on, you know, whatever the questions are that come in. And what's most personal is most universal. So if you've got a question, chances are lots of other people are wondering it. So ask away. That's all for today. I hope you have a really beautiful week. Thank you so much for your support. I love it when you can share these videos, comment below, like them, subscribe to my channel. All of that helps me to be more visible to other women who might find this information helpful. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Have a great day.